G'day, Ziggy here, author of Money Does Grow on Trees, and today I have Jason Pater from the Payton Foundation. That was a bit of a mouthful, Jason.
You nailed it.
But we got
Well
there. You know what? As I was thinking of our chat today, I was going to do an introduction and sort of talk through you're the CEO, you're doing it. Tell me what you do.
Sure. So the Payton Foundation is actually a group of three entities. We have a charitable entity, we have a public ancillary fund, and a public benevolent institution. We wrap them up and call them all Payton Foundation. But essentially was started back in 2011 by the Payton family. So they had a business called Payton Capital, and they wanted to give back. And so they decided that they would allocate 20% of the shares in the company to a charitable foundation. So they created this entity, allocated the shares, and then as the business grew, it received 20% of the dividends every year. So as it grew, we would get more and more dividends. I remember the first dividend cheque was $1,500, which was fantastic. That went to Africa.
Yeah,
and we did good with that. And then we sold the business in 2024, and the last dividend cheque was $1.5 million.
Wow!
So it was some great growth in the meantime.
Yep.
But because we owned those shares when the business was sold, we received 20% of the proceeds of the sale as well. So we ended up with a corpus. So now we have an asset base that we invest in the market and that generates income, and we use that income to support our charity partners. So we go look at organisations around the world that are working in health, housing and education, and we assess their bona fides. So we do due diligence on them. We check that they're good governance, that they're having impact, that they're transforming lives. And that our money will have an impact. And so we use the income from our corpus to support those organisations. And then because we've done all that work and we've checked them all out and we love what they do, we want to tell other people about it. So we go out to our networks and we try and encourage people in our networks to donate to these charities as well. So that's why we've also set up the public ancillary fund so we can attract tax-deductible donations so people could partner with us to partner with those organisations. And because we've got our corpus, we're funded. So our overhead's funded by that. So we don't take any fees out of any of the money that we collect on behalf of our partners. It passes straight through without any deduction whatsoever.
So if I'm at the barbecue with my mates and I'm explaining a corpus, we're talking about a base, a capital, a large amount of money that generates an income that helps fund the charity.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly right.
Okay, good. Guys at the barbecue can understand that now. Tell me about the from a family, family wealth. Talk about Payton Capital. I mean, I've heard that a lot of families, large families, when they make their wealth, sort of donate that in charitable. But I haven't quite heard the fact that 20% of is such a big, capital, Payton Capital, to allocate 20%. It's a big chunk.
It is a big chunk. Yeah, they were a very generous family. Ruth Payton was the matriarch of the family. That's David Payton's mother. Pardon me. And she modelled generosity to the whole family. And so we actually wanted to honour that. And one of the entities in the group is actually called the Ruth Payton Foundation. But it was because of that inspiration. Dave tells a story where he would come home on a Sunday night and there would just be people at the table that Mum had met in the street that needed a meal, and so she invited them home. Yeah. And so that was modelled in his life, and he learned generosity through that. So he wanted to emulate that and lock it in to the fabric of the business. Yeah. And the benefit that created was I guess it was intentional, but probably more unexpected than they thought. In the end, I would say, I think the statistic was 75% of all clients and staff that came to work or partner with Payton Capital noted that the foundation was the most significant reason why they did that.
Wow.
The earnings and all that sort of stuff, that was a given. That's fairly competitive in the market. But what set Payton Capital apart was that heart, that purpose in the business that was demonstrated by the foundation being a 20% shareholder.
Yeah, it really builds culture when there's a purpose. Now, tell me, your background is as an accountant.
I'm a chartered accountant.
You're a chartered accountant,
yep.
And then what happened?
Well, I set up I fell into tax practice. I was a outsourced CFO. I was doing CFO work around the country and enjoyed that, but I was doing that for families generally, and they all ended up wanting me to do their tax returns. So as their businesses grew, we would hire in permanent CFOs. So my job was to make my job redundant. But then I would always retain the tax work. So I ended up setting up a tax practice, and I didn't really want to have a tax practice. So I got a partner in, ultimately worked together, and then I sold my practice to him. And then one of the clients that I was working with was Payton Capital. And Dave said to me after I sold my practice, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, why don't you come and run the foundation? It's a great deal. I'll pay you about half of what you're earning now, but, why not? It's rewarding."
You got purpose.
Exactly. So I said, let me see if I can convince my wife.
Yeah.
And here I am 10 years later, still running it. And it's incredibly rewarding. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Now I know you've actually been trying to get me across to parts of Africa.
Yes.
Right? Because you know it's going to have an impact. I know it's going to have an impact, but I'm a little scared.
Oh, no, there's nothing to be scared of. Africa's very safe. In fact, I find it safer walking around cities in Nairobi and Kampala, safer than walking down King Street in Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, these days that wouldn't be too hard. Okay, so tell me about, because what we're dealing with is you've got exposure to, on one hand, you've got people and companies that are donating, and you're involved on that corporate level, and then on the other hand, you're at the coalface, if you like, meeting the recipients, the people that receive this money. And so tell me a bit about that, because I then want to get on to, everyone's got a different idea about what being prosperous is. But tell me about the people that you go and see.
Sure. One of the things that's a bit different about us is we act as a bit of a bridge. So we are connecting the donors and the beneficiaries directly. And we feel it's as important, the people that are giving are as important as the people that are receiving. And so those that give, if we can connect them with the receivers, will benefit from that direct proximity. It's too easy to ignore the need over there from the distance of Australia. But if you go over and see it, you will be changed. Your heart will be changed, and you'll just want to give. I can tell you, I was in Peru just a couple of weeks ago, and we support an organisation there that takes kids out of orphanages. So when they age out at 18, they would otherwise be homeless. And this organisation takes them in, puts them through school, makes sure that they're building a career, and after 3 years they can go on and look after themselves. And so we were staying at their facility with a group of us, and I met some of the residents, and we'd go down to the dining hall in the mornings or at lunchtime, and I met one of the girls there, Milagros, and she was just sitting there working on her laptop. She was preparing a presentation. She's studying for psychology, and she was going to do a presentation in 2 days' time to us as a group on her course. And so she was tapping away and creating a PowerPoint presentation, which is also very studious of her. She's 25 years old. So we would come and go from our events during the day, and bump into her and chat, and that was all good. She was just a normal 25-year-old kid. And then she got up 2 days later and told her testimony. And it started with, well, when I was 5 years old, I was kidnapped from my family, and I was taken to live with another family. And my parents looked for me, and at 12, they actually found me. But because the people who kidnapped me had such great paperwork, the police weren't able to determine who was the true parents.
No way.
So ultimately, she ended up being put in an orphanage where she lived until she was 18.
So no one then got her?
Correct. Yep. So at 18, she ended up in a program that we support, Las de Vida, and now she's a well-adjusted, normal person. But having gone through all of the trauma of being kidnapped, not to mention abuse from parents and all sorts of things that we don't need to talk about. But having gone through that trauma, and the organisation helped her walk through that process and unwind all of that trauma and become a normal human contributing to society and well-adjusted.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, fantastic. And these are the organisations that we partner with. That's the transformation that I'm talking about.
Yeah. So when we're talking about being prosperous, that word is going to conjure up different thoughts, ideas, feelings for me and for you and for the donors, compared to the Milagros, was it?
Milagros,
Milagros.
which means miracle, by the way,
Miracle.
in Spanish.
So the original parents gave her the name Miracle.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. So it conjures up different things. Tell us about what they would see being prosperous as.
Oh, family. Overseas, prosperity is all about family. It's about
Right.
kids. It's about relationships, right?
Yeah.
Here we equate prosperity to dollars, but true prosperity is about relationships. It's about once you've looked after yourself and your family, who else in your world are you helping and lifting up, and who's benefiting from the fact that you have wealth? You know, remember the great sage, Spider-Man's Uncle Ben. He says, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
And so if you have wealth, you have a responsibility to steward that wealth well, not only for your family, but for those who are around you, in your direct community, but also around the world.
I think about our Western world, and here in Australia we're talking about interest rates and inflation, and I can't negative gear anymore, and having a whinge, and rightly so in part,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. But then you come to stories like this, whether it's in Africa or Peru, and their focus is on, okay, I want to build myself up, create some wealth, help the family, but then who's next?
Exactly.
There's no retirement planning there.
There isn't. No, there is no retirement planning. I'll give you an example. We went to, I was in Payton a couple of years ago.
Where's Payton?
Payton is in Uganda, sorry.
Uganda.
Payton is in northern Uganda, near the border, where all that fighting was many years ago with Joseph Kony and the LRA.
That's why I'm scared.
Yeah. Well, it's far enough away from the war's over. Been there many times.
See the way, Danny, see the way he's phrasing it? He's trying to get me over.
You'd love it.
Yeah, I bet you I would.
And I think your hesitation is that you know you would love it, and then having been there and seen it, you know that you'll be sold out to it when you get back. And I think
that's probably true.
And your heart will be opened.
Yeah.
And you'll just want to do something.
Yeah.
And just as we are.
Can we send Danny first?
Sure. No worries.
Danny, we're sending you first.
Right.
We'll send Blair, and then I'll come.
So I met Vicky over there. Now Vicky's a young girl who was in high school there, so we support one of the girls' schools in Uganda. And Vicky had lost her leg. And the reason she lost her leg is because she had cancer in her leg. And she went to the doctors, and the doctor said to her father, now, we got two choices. You can amputate the leg, or you can let her die. What would you prefer to do? And he said, she looked at him, and he looked at her, and he said, take the leg.
Yeah.
Thankfully. So I met her after she'd lost her leg. And they wanted some help with finding a prosthetic limb for her. So I promised her that when I went back home, I would find someone who would donate the money to get that leg. And that's exactly what we did. Went back and talked to our generous network of donors and found someone who very kindly wanted to give $5,000 towards purchasing a leg. So we did that, bought the leg, and she went down to Kampala and had it fitted. And then 2 years later, when I went back to visit, I saw her with the leg, and I was so excited. I thought, this is it. She's going to be going to be all sorted now. I said, life's changed with it. And she said, oh, it hurts. It hurts really, it's not working properly. And I said, what's going on? Well, I talked to the teachers there, and what happened was the hospital that built it didn't fit it properly. Oh. And so this thing was no good. So we talk about stewarding wealth. So we were there, and we just happened to be, after this, 2 days later, going to Rwanda to a hospital that made prosthetic limbs. Said, right, you're coming with us. So we took her and the nurse that's connected to the school, and we put them on a plane with us, and we took them to this hospital in Rwanda, and we paid for them to be there for 2 weeks and get a new leg made that was custom fitted for her of the latest technology, and trained her to walk in with that leg. And now she's 100% walking along, with that leg and no dramas at all. That cost us another $5,000.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you can't walk away from that. You can't look at that and say, oh, well, sorry, we tried.
Yeah.
No, it's all about the one.
Yes.
It's about that one person that is in front of you right now.
Yeah.
We could have also spent $5,000 educating a whole bunch of girls in that school too. But in that moment, in that circumstance, we were presented with an opportunity to help one person. Now, if that was your daughter with one leg and she got a prosthetic limb and it didn't work, you would just go get another one.
Yeah.
Right?
No
Wouldn't
doubt.
even be a question.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Not a question. And that's stewarding wealth.
Yes.
That's being responsible with your prosperity.
I want to come back to stewarding your wealth, because I want to talk about, some of the donors' characteristics, who's involved, that sort of thing, and also come back to Payton Foundation and even whatever numbers you're willing to share, because I really want to give the audience, we're not dealing with some sort of too-big charity that's always struggling for, we're dealing with something that's quite serious and is big and does a lot of good stuff. But before we go there, these people that you're helping, I know that whenever I come up with an issue here in Australia, whether it be financial, probably mostly health-wise, if you go to a specialist and you got an issue and it's a serious issue and they fix it, you go, oh man, just thank you so much, thank you. They just must think that you're God over there, with a small G.
Yeah, they definitely are very appreciative, absolutely. Yeah. And it took me a little while to work this out, and Australians are very we don't want to take credit as much as others, different other countries would, but they want to thank you, they want to make a big deal of you, they want to honour you when you come over.
Yeah.
And I realised actually there's two things. One, we're ambassadors of all givers. So when we come over, doesn't matter what we've specifically given, they're thanking Australians for giving. They're thanking the whole country. So you're an ambassador for the entire country. And the other thing is they actually feel important because you've come to visit. We've come all these many thousands of kilometres to come and visit them. That tells them that we think they're important. So it's not about us being important, it's about them being important.
Yes.
So that's quite powerful as well.
Yeah, wow.
Took me a little while to work that out because we feel like we shouldn't be getting all this credit.
Yes.
But we're actually going to tell them how important they are.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Okay. Reminds me of a story called The Prodigal Son. But anyway, okay. So tell me about some of the people that are involved in donating. What does that person, that corporation, that entity look like from a characteristic perspective? I mean, or any other perspective you're happy to share.
Yeah. No, so the companies that we partner with, typically like Payton Foundation, realise that embedding philanthropy or embedding generosity into your culture doesn't actually reduce the amount that you have. It expands the amount that you have. It's a little antithetical because you think, I'm giving away, therefore I've got less profit. But it's going to attract more people to the organisation that you actually want to support, more clients, more staff, those sorts of things. It's actually going to grow your organisation, not shrink it. It's like it's good marketing. If you market well, you're spending money, but you're attracting more, and it's the same thing. Building that generosity into your culture is going to attract the people that you want to support.
Yep.
And then there's others who have made their wealth, and they're typically moving towards retirement or have retired and want to start giving back and leaving a legacy. And so they will create a donor-advised fund inside of our public ancillary fund. And what that means is they can donate an amount of money. We manage it and do all of the compliance work, so they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And then we will tell them how much income has been earned in that year, and that tells them how much they can give away. And then they work with us to decide then which charities they want to support with that. And they could be here in Australia or they could be overseas in any of the areas of health, housing and education that they choose.
Yeah, wow.
And the next step up from that is setting up a private ancillary fund, which is a separate entity in your own right. But then you've got to do all the accounting for it. You've got to do all the compliance. You've got to have the right people on the board.
No, I'm not interested.
You've
That's
got
why
to
we
do all
got
the
you.
research. Exactly.
That's what I got you for.
And we don't charge anything for that. Again, it's we're fully funded. But what we ask is that through that process, that some significant chunk of your giving will actually go to some of our charity partners.
Yeah.
I mean, we could charge a fee,
yes,
but all we do with that fee is give it to our charity partners. So
yes,
we just prefer that you gave directly to our charity partners, and that works better.
Yep. You mentioned before, you said that, in the early days, the first dividend check was 1,500. I think the last one was 1.5, right? What's the biggest donation your Payton Foundation has received?
Received?
Well, two parts of that question. Maybe the biggest donation you've received, but then the biggest capital that's gone into a...
Sure. So we partner with the Bendigo Bank at Carrum Downs, the community bank.
Yep.
And we help them facilitate the funding of a house for mums surviving domestic violence in the Carrum Downs area. And that house cost $650,000, which they donated over time. We were able to facilitate some bank funding to make that work. But yeah, essentially $650,000 would that in a big lump, it's a big donation.
Big chunk.
Yeah, big chunk.
It's a big chunk. Yeah. And so what about, are there other corporations or families or entities that have put just a large chunk into one of your, say, your ancillary funds and said, okay, this is the amount that we're putting in, and then we're gonna donate from there.
Yeah, the one that I like to talk about, I won't name the family, but there's a family up in Queensland, and they continually donate every few months. They make tens of thousands of dollars donation into the fund, which accumulates, and then they work with us to release those funds and supporting organisations locally and overseas.
Yeah,
which is tremendous.
Yeah, because I do see, as a financial services business here, we do see donations at a corporate level, but certainly at an individual level. We do a lot of tax returns here, and you do see, that item, which is, charity and donations.
Yep.
And so you have a lot of individuals who do donate, and sometimes, I look at that income and I go, oh, wow, that's impressive. That sort of puts me to shame. So it's interesting to hear, what people at the other end, if you like, are also doing. But in terms of Payton Foundation, like, how big is it? Like, where is it at the moment?
Sure. So we were blessed enough to have received about 25 million in the sale of the business.
Yep.
So our corpus, that word that you explained before,
Yep.
The amount of funds that we have invested is around about 25 million, depending on the prices of the shares in the share market at any given point.
Yes.
And that is what generates the income that we use to support our charity partners. Last year we gave away about $1.2 million out of that, as well as funded our own operations. And we raised about $1.2 million from donors, and that all went through to our charity partners as well.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So in your journey, Jason, you've obviously got your, chartered accounting background. You've been involved in, CFO work, tax work. You've now, you're running an organisation that has a lot of money, but you also, there's a few extremes there, right?
Sure.
One end you're dealing with, you've got $25 million that you're a steward of and you've got to manage properly. And at the other end, whether it's $5,000 or $5 or $500, you're changing people's life. How does that? You're an all-rounder. We would call you an all-rounder in cricket.
Yeah, sure. So, as an accountant, you wouldn't necessarily think going into philanthropy is a good fit. But I was trained as an auditor originally, back in the old days of PricewaterhouseCoopers.
That's why you're good.
And audit experience is actually a really good grounding for due diligence work and compliance. So philanthropy is very heavily compliant. You got to make sure that the funds are going where they're supposed to go, and there's a whole bunch of rules that the ACNC require us to follow. If we don't do that, that's putting donor funds at risk. So, it's good background for having built that piece, and then having run a practice, you also learn a little bit about dealing with clients and connecting with clients, and so connecting with donors is the same sort of thing.
I was interested to hear people's reason why they do things. And so you mentioned a lot of your donors. You mentioned that family up in Queensland. What is there a common thing that you see? Is it is there a particular, is it faith related? Is it these people have something, there's a bigger purpose to them, which is why they want to pass that on? Or is there something common you see?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that feel blessed by God and want to give back. That's certainly my motivation for wanting to participate in this.
Yep.
There are others that I think do it from a level of guilt, which is okay, but not great. But I think there's this other piece, which is this proximity. And I think that's where if you, as a donor, connect with someone, that's what I was talking about, meeting with Vicky. Once you go over there and you actually connect and see someone, you will want to give. And so your heart just naturally, I believe people are generally good and people generally want to give. I think they hesitate to give often because they don't trust the organisation. They don't believe that, they think there's way too much going to admin fees or whatever stories have been told. There's been a few dodgy ones out there. And they say, well, I don't have the skills to work out which is the correct one or not, which is why we do what we do. So we go out there and check that the charities are doing the right thing. So if you're partnering with any one of our charity partners, you can trust that the money's going to be used effectively. And then I think there's a value exchange, right? If you're going to spend $100, if somebody asks you for $100, you're getting emails all the time. Now it's end of financial year,
Yes.
it's tax time.
Yeah.
There's a million different charities asking for donations at the end of financial year, and that's a good thing to do. Like if you want to get a tax deduction, go to Payton.Foundation.
Give away your millions, mate.
That's it. Payton.Foundation/donate and have a look there. There's plenty of opportunities and organisations you can select and make a donation. And that's a good thing. But you might look at that and it's still at arm's length, right? Oh, I see the pictures, I see the need, that's fine, but is my $100 really going to make a difference? Or is my $1,000 really going to make a difference? Or I could spend that $100 in my kids' shoes. And then I see the shoes there and I know that I've got some value for that. It doesn't matter that the kid's already got 6 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
But that $100 could actually buy 10 pairs of shoes for 10 kids in Africa who really need it. Now, if you knew those 10 kids, you'd do that. And you'd do 100 of them, every day of the week. So it's about proximity. I think people hesitate to give, not because of a bad heart, but because of inertia. They just don't trust, they don't know, they're making a value exchange. But if we can give them that proximity, that's why you need to come with me to Africa. That's why these trips are so important.
Yes.
If you come over and you meet people and you know their names, you know Vicky, you know Milagros, you know Monica, these are the names of people who I know and I know their stories and I know it's worth giving them the money because I know it's going to benefit their lives.
Yeah. Is that proximity thing is important. I was in Fitzroy Street, St Kilda one day and I was just sitting outside having a coffee and, about 5 metres down there was a guy that had a cup on the floor, very dishevelled and was just walking up and down, not along the footpath if you like, but from, say, the shop front to the curb and back. And so people, as they were walking past, he would stop and wait, but that's all he was doing, back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, and so I just went up and I gave him some money. He gave me the biggest hug I reckon I've ever had. And I'm a hugger, right? So I hug a lot. I know what a good hug is. He gave me my biggest hug, and in my ear he whispered, "Thank you so much."
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm getting teary now. I got teary and I walked back to my coffee and I thought, oh, wow. Yeah, that feels good, but not because I now wanted to feel good, but I've just had an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the exchange. It's weird. You give because the person's going to benefit. But what you don't realise is that you will benefit as much or if not more, and your heart will actually expand. And then when your heart expands, you become a better person. And that benefits all the people around you because you have better relationships as a result of that. Did you find the guy's name? Did you get his name?
I didn't.
Next time it happens, get his name.
Yeah.
Because people want to be seen. They want to be heard. The sweetest word in the English language is somebody's name.
Yeah.
And so somebody in that situation wants to be seen as a person. If you know their name, then you know them.
Yeah, powerful. Powerful. All right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I know you've spoken about a few stories were spoken about, why you do this, why charity partners do this, and I know you and I in previous discussions have spoken about why I do what we do, and that I think for me the journey is not over. I mean, it's not over for anyone, but but I think there's still a walk that I'm doing towards becoming more purposeful. But I've found that if all you're doing is you're looking towards, say, the purpose, and you want to be in a position where I've now got plenty, and I now can give it away, and now I can be generous. But talk to me about the person that's not. What do we tell the person that's watching or listening now that says, "Well, I don't have those millions to put into into your charity. I don't have," and I get the connection, right? I get the connection. But let's start with the person who just says, "Well, I've got X amount. There's a cost of living crisis.
Sure.
I'm battling to pay, to actually get some shoes for the kids." How do we unpack that?
Well, you have more than just money. You have networks, influence, relationships. You can give something, and that seed will be planted, and that seed will grow. Whether it's $10 or $100 or $1,000, that seed will still multiply. And if you can then tell 10 other people about it, you've just multiplied it 10 times if they give as well. So don't underestimate the power of your influence in your networks. And you might say, well, I don't have big networks, but everybody has some networks, family, friends, co-workers. You can provide that influence. And then there are others that have significant influence, and you can do great things. I'll give you an example. We took someone with us to Africa last year, and she was so impacted. We took her through the slums of Kibera, and coming out of that, I did a quick video interview with her and asked her, what have you seen? And she just burst into tears and said, I can't believe people live like this. Somebody's got to do something about it. And I said, and that's why you come, so that you can go home and do something about it. And she did. So she helped us to organise a fundraising event. 120 people came. We raised $30,000 for kids' education in Africa, and it was fantastic. And so she used her influence to actually benefit those kids over there, as well as her own funds. But influence was significantly leveraging what she'd given.
Yeah. I'm also thinking that guy on the street in St Kilda, and even something small as, go and give him $10 every week and give him a hug.
Yeah. And learn his name, and every time you see him, say, hey, Bob, how you going? Cold day today, isn't it? You know?
I'll go get him a cappuccino.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
You don't have to solve all these problems.
Yeah.
But you can make him feel good with every interaction.
It's about when I'm talking to clients about their finance as well, a lot of times they get overwhelmed.
Yep.
And that's because they're thinking of too many things. And like with anything, you just need to break it down. So here's something where you just say, okay, we'll just break it down and start with something small. It comes back to our health as well. If you want to lose weight and get fit, it's like, oh, I've got to do all that. Yeah, I'll put it off. But even just something simple as increasing your steps, from a health perspective. Sure. So taking that first step. You've been in leadership, right? Obviously with Payton now. And I'm sure you've gone through difficult seasons, right, in your life personally, and I'm sure. Payton probably in the early days, it would have been hard because, Payton Capital would have said, well, I've given you 20%. You're going to get some dividends, but otherwise, off you go. So how do you navigate through these times?
So a question of leadership. So I would say I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm smart enough to hire smarter people than me. So my team, Steph, Marg and Ellie, they're all smarter than me, which is great in their respective fields. And so my job is to build them up. I see my role as a leader is empowering them to do the best they can absolutely do. And if they look good, then I look good. Yeah. And then the whole organisation looks good.
And then you're the one that gets onto a podcast.
That's it.
All right, maybe we should get Steph on next time.
I think you better get Steph next time.
Maybe next time we have a bit of a panel, maybe you and Steph. And we can.
She would have given you a much better answer about Bob, the homeless guy.
I'm sure she would have. Sure she would have. I mean, that's the other thing coming back to it is that people can actually give their time. Right? And I know we've done some things, together where we've had some of our staff that have attended and just given their
presence,
wrap presents. That was for the prison. Was that for the mums in prison or
exactly right? Yeah. Yes. So one of our organisations supports women in prison. Yep. Interestingly, the majority of women in prison have had some sort of domestic violence background. That's ultimately how they end up in those situations, and it's difficult for them to get out. And again, nobody sees them in prison. Nobody comes to visit. Nobody's seeing them as people, and so this organisation sees them and helps them, and then helps them when they get out to get back into society again, get a house, get a job, etc. Yeah. And so providing gifts at Christmas is such a blessing for them. They say, I can't believe somebody thinks I'm important enough to give a gift. And that's what your team did last year. We went to the Rialto and they came along and wrapped some gifts, and those gifts went to the mums and the kids. Yeah,
so good. And I know it changed. I know it had an impact on
is that right?
The hearts that attended, particularly one, but both.
Great.
Yeah, both. It was pretty cool. Yeah. What does legacy mean to you when we're talking about legacy? Right? A lot of people say, I want to leave a legacy. And, for a lot of people, that legacy is I want to have made a difference in business, in technology, in finances, in what does it mean for you having exposure to all the above?
One of the greatest things you can do is leave behind some funds that will then continue to work and help people after you're gone. You can do that in your name, or you can do it anonymously, or however you like. But leaving that to a trusted organisation like Payton Foundation, where we could set that up within our public ancillary fund, and we can put some rings around that and make sure that it's given to exactly the causes that you want to give to. We can absolutely do that. But legacy is also something you can do in your lifetime too. It doesn't have to be after you've gone.
Yeah.
It's about what's the wake you're leaving behind you. You know, if you're a boat, what's the wake? What's the impact, and is that a positive impact? That's a legacy.
I was watching someone on social media, they were having a discussion, and one of them said, could you name me the biggest business person in 1850?
Right.
He goes, no, I can't. No. He goes, well, I can guarantee you in 200 years, no one is going to remember you or me. So that's important about doing something with your life now and having that legacy now. Not because you want the credit for it, but because you're going to be able to see the fruits of what you're going to be able to do. Yeah. Does money buy happiness?
There's a song about that, isn't there? No, of course it doesn't. It helps, but what we found, particularly going overseas, going into the slums of Africa, the kids are happy, which is ridiculous because
you see smiling faces, white teeth and smiling faces.
Why are they happy? It's because they just know that they've got loving parents and friends around them, and that's happiness. They don't have mobile phones. They don't often have shoes. They're going to school with all kinds of raggedy clothes, but they have happiness. And we think, well, we see that and we go, well, we've got to give them all this stuff so their standard of living is better and they'll be happier. But actually, if you look at our kids and our standard of living, they've got all this stuff and they're not as happy.
Yes.
So no, the stuff and happiness are not the same thing.
Yeah. There's obviously just there's joy there.
Yeah.
Because happiness tends to be, well, I'm happy because something good happened to me. But joy is a lot deeper. That's relationships. That's
security in relationships.
Yeah. When you go over there, I mean, because you're we see a lot of videos and advertising, and people are interviewed and they're sort of put up and portrayed in a really. And I'm not saying that they're being deceitful at all, but I see some of your videos and it's raw. It's straight here. You're grabbing your phone and you're showing. Showing us what it's all about. Is that do you get what type of feedback do you get from your donors and from the people involved? I mean, I know you've sent me a few videos whilst you've been over there, and you've said, hey, and that's impacted me, and I've really enjoyed it. But what feedback do you get?
Oh, people love the fact that we can go and we can have that direct connection. They're seeing their funds, particularly those that have given us money before we go. We're showing them exactly where it's gone and what impact it's having, and so they absolutely love that. That's fantastic. Even if they can't come this time, they just love that we can give them that direct feedback.
I just think it's good that a chartered accountant is on the in the the back blocks of Africa.
Yeah.
Where do you end up sleeping over there?
It's not as bad as all that. We certainly don't sleep on dirt floors. I do know some people that will do that. But no, we think that when we take people over from our level, what we're accustomed to, we stay in nice hotels, or as nice as possible. It's not the Hilton, but we do stay in decent, safe hotels. So you can go and see and experience that, and at least be able to retreat back at night to some level of safety, security, and comfort. Something that's a bit familiar, and just process the day.
Yes.
Without having to feel like you can't sleep because you're scared, or you haven't got a comfy bed.
Yeah. First world problems is that they have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, they do have Wi-Fi.
They do?
And everybody has a mobile phone.
Okay.
In fact, in Kibera, in the slums, that is the economy. That they actually trade on mobile phones.
Business,
That's how they do business.
Wow,
it's incredible. You walk into everything's made of tin, and it's falling down dirt floors, but they'll have a power board with 12 things plugged into it, and all these iPhones getting charged off.
Yeah.
No, it's important.
So if someone is listening today, and because we do have a lot of people that are successful, right, in Australia, in the Western world, but if someone listening to this or watching this is successful, but they're still feeling that something's missing, something's just unfulfilled, what would you say to them?
I'd say drive that proximity question. You know, go and see the people around the world that need something. And in that seeing, you will find, as you give yourself away, you find yourself. It's incredible. You find out who you really are as you're giving yourself away. And so come with us. Come on an excursion. Come on an immersion trip and go and connect with people. And that is where you will find out exactly what your purpose is.
Yeah, what a great way to finish off today. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We've had some good chats over the years, and maybe the next time, you come on, I'll have come to Africa.
You heard it here. He's coming on the next trip.
Danny, am I going? I told you, as long as Danny goes.
That's it. We can both go.
We can both go. We can get Bryce too. Hey, but thanks for coming on. It's been a great chat. Thanks for sharing and being open about the stories, obviously your journey, Payton, the whole thing. It's been fantastic, and just gives everyone a different angle on that word prosperity, what it means to be prosperous. Because as you said, it's we as soon as we hear that word, we think of money. Yeah, we think of the dollars. But gee, there's so much more to that. What do they say is that is it poor people that think that money will buy you happiness, but rich people know better?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's so true anyway. But hey, thanks for having me on. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.